Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Scorpio energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Scorpio, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio. We've all got our dualistic nature and we have to make decisions in our life. And we can struggle within ourselves. In our high vibe nature, we might want to have more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in love and in others. But in our more worldly, shadowy nature, which can be our fear and our insecurity and our self-limiting beliefs and past pain and heartbreak and things like that, we can kind of keep repeating an old pattern. And the shadowy row can kind of represent these things that manipulate us. So there could be some people in the world right now, to different degrees, they're kind of going back and forth within themselves. But at any given moment in time, there are going to be some people moving forward in life. They've kind of worked through some of the things that manipulated them. If that's issues within themselves, letting other people manipulate them, letting the world manipulate them, friends or family, or something keeping them kind of tipped out of balance where they're kind of enabling maybe some poor behavior in themselves or other people. They've done that work within themselves to see the truth of it, because the truth sets us free. And that can just be, I see where I need to heal or grow or mature myself. I see where other people need to heal or grow or mature myself. Maybe it's just not on the same page. We view life differently. And there's always going to be some people that are more shadowy, which can be, life's about learning lessons. And some people still got some lessons to learn about how to play nicely with other people, or to be just or fair, or get out of their ego or their defensiveness or their immaturity, Scorpio is emotional water sign energy. And some people made the free will choice. I find it confusing. I really don't like to connect in with my emotions that much. And they might keep a lot of things buried beneath the surface, and they make the free will choice to live more from their mind and their heart and their ego, or because they're so caught up in their emotional nature, they're kind of tipped out of balance, and they're not kind of just more balanced within themselves. And then they're maybe, we're either more balanced within ourselves or we're more tipped out of balance. And some people are tipped out of balance in their loving nature, enabling people in kind of poor behavior, but I love them. And some people are tipped out of balance the other way, where I don't really like to connect in with my emotions. So anyway, we're going to kind of talk about all of that. We all tap into Scorpio energy, so this might be something that particularly people in a Scorpio sun sign or with significant Scorpio placements in their astrological chart might be dealing with, but it could be what affects Scorpio energy, and we all tap into Scorpio energy. So just listen to where you could be at in the story, where some other people in your life are at in the story. At the end, we're going to ask what could be a possible outcome for people, depending on how they harness their Scorpio energy and the decisions they're making in their life. So let's go look at the bottom row first. The reason for the bottom row's reading is the Sun card. The reason for the top row's reading is the House card. This one references to Leo energy. This card reminds me of the Four of Wands, which is Aries energy, two fire sign energies. But this one also talks about Taurus energy, and Taurus energy kind of has to do with our philosophy of life. And are we operating more from our ego, or were we inspired to kind of walk the talk and grow up and heal and mature ourselves and kind of act with character and integrity, right? And we have to get out of our ego, which is what Leo energy can represent. We have to get out of our ego to even see the truth of where we might need to heal and grow and mature ourselves, or that we're dealing with other people who operate more from their worldly egoic nature. And their philosophy of life in their Taurus energy can be different than ours. And you don't have to be dealing with an Aries, a Leo, a Taurus, or a Scorpio. We all tap into all the zodiac sign traits and characteristics in a more high vibe way, a more worldly way, or a more shadowy way. And, fire sign energy can be kind of what drives and motivates us. And probably for the first 30 or 40 years of our life, we're all pretty inspired by the world. you know, we were brought up in the world in our Taurus energy to have a certain way of viewing life, viewing ourselves, viewing the world, viewing relationships. And we're all pretty inspired to want these certain things in the world. And we're sure those things will make us happy. And we go make our life about those things or go indulge in those things. The only thing is that as time went by, some people kind of saw through the illusion and they did this work within themselves to be illuminated to the truth. That I am kind of making my life more about me or the world, or I get in relationships that are more with people who are more about themselves or the world or ego. And we come into contact with all these people in the world to help us get clear. And the sun talks about being illuminated to the truth and high vibe energy. That what is my truth? And am I willing to get out of my ego and my fear and my more self-limiting beliefs or whatever to really shine my authentic light and be more bold and brave in my philosophy of life to walk the talk and put work and effort to bring my dreams into reality instead of making my life so much about what other people told me I should make my life about if I wanted to be happy. It's kind of like we get indoctrinated into the world. You should make your life about this. And if you wear this and you have this much money or you drive this or you're in hanging out with these people versus those people, you'll be happy. And we have all these lessons to learn. So let's go look at the bottom row. We have the clover, the tree, the mice in reverse, and the devil. And the devil kind of represents the world. We get caught up in the world. We think all these things. That's the truth. That's what I should make my life about. And we go do it. And, there's certain things we become illuminated to that this is toxic. This is unhealthy. This is prideful, egotistical, selfish, superficial, shallow. I need to grow up. Other people I might know need to grow up, and I need to see the truth of it. But, up in the top row, we have gift, expectation, and the ring. And the ring is Taurus energy. There's these things that we want to be in relationship with. We want to have a job. We want to have friends. We want to be in relationships or marriages, right? Because Taurus energy can kind of represent all those things. But then the tunnel card here is also Capricorn energy, and the devil is Capricorn energy. We want all these things of the world, but is it kind of keeping us tipped out of balance, operating more from our ego, our lust, our greed, our pride, our fear, our insecurity? And the devil talks about, typically in a normal tarot deck, this is kind of like a mix. This is Maruk X on their Etsy shop. They're a mix of their kind of Kipper style deck and a Lenormand deck. But in a regular tarot card deck like Rider Waite, the devil card looks just like the lover's card. Except that they've got chains around their neck and they're shackled and chained. And the devil talks about all these things that limit us, restrict us, confine us, imprison us. And we live in a world of duality where, like, high vibe energy wants us, represented by God at the big picture, wants us to free ourselves from things that manipulate us. To be illuminated to the truth, because the truth sets us free to live our more authentic life. But it does take, we have to see the truth. And we have to deal with the truth. Or we will keep being manipulated. So, but we've all got these lessons learned. So, We wanted to be in relationship with people, but we hadn't quite realized, high vibe Capricorn I view as the King of Pentacles. People can look very victorious and successful in the world in Capricorn and Leo energy. They can be attractive, they can be charming, they can have status, power, money, clout, whatever they got, right? And so people can look like they're harnessing high vibe energy, and the King of Pentacles would represent how people present themselves in the world, and people would view whether they're male or female, because it's considered kind of like masculine energy when we go take action out in the world. But people really don't know the truth of how we think and feel. Some people are who they say they are. Up here we have a feminine figure, which can represent how we think and feel. And in high vibe, it would be, I am inspired in my philosophy of life, Aries and Taurus energy. I am inspired to, a true gift to offer people in the world would be truth and love, justice, fairness, acting with character and integrity. And there's some people who have that hope and faith and belief, and they offer that to other people in their life. They want to be in relationship with people who are inspired by those same things. And sometimes, we've gotten in friendships and relationships with people, and initially with kind of the gift and the four-leaf clover, and the clover is signified by Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius energy and high vibes about higher learning and education. And some people in their high vibe Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, Capricorn, Scorpio energy, they are motivated to free themselves from things that manipulate them and the past, like past pain and heartbreak and self-limiting beliefs and stuff like that. I want to move forward in life. I'm motivated and inspired to kind of wrap my brain around this game of life. And I'm inspired in high vibe Capricorn to free myself from things that manipulate me. And then this card here kind of reminds me of like a birth canal, because the whole thing is when we work through our fears and our insecurities and our past pain and heartbreak and stuff like that, and high vibe sun energy can be, I shed light on those things, and I offered love and compassion and forgiveness to myself and other people, because I don't want past pain and heartbreak and fears and insecurities to keep manipulating me. And because I kind of have this hopeful, believing spirit, I offered that gift of love to the past and to myself. We've all got lessons to learn in life. We've all been more immature, prideful, egotistical, stubborn. Some people still are. Some people aren't as much as other people. And it's just kind of dealing with the truth of it, that it takes work and effort to free yourself from things that manipulate you. And we just see the truth that some people weren't motivated and inspired maybe to put in the work and effort to even look at those things, because again, the truth sets us free, but you can choose to be in denial of the truth. You can ignore the truth. You can keep moving forward in your ego. I don't got to deal with that. I don't want to think about it. Okay. That's free will. They can do that. But they're probably going to we'll all repeat old patterns. The truth sets us free. And some people are like, I'm not doing it. I have no interest. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at it. Maybe it would require that I reveal a truth or accept the truth of something, and I don't want to. Maybe I'd have to see the truth about myself or other people in my life. I don't want to. Okay? If we know people who don't want to deal with the truth about themselves or other things that manipulate them, they could want us to stay in a relationship with them, because the tree card in Virgo energy can kind of represent being in a foundation with someone. well, you took this job, you should stay in this job. You're my friend, you should stay my friend. We're dating, we got married, you should stay in it. Well, what was everybody's expectation of what was going to come in the future, like how things were going to flow, right? And in Virgo energy, our long-term goal is either to learn these lessons and put in work and effort to deal with the truth of things that manipulate us and our more immature, prideful, lustful, greedy nature to keep moving forward in truth and love. And that we do shed old layers of ourselves to kind of give birth to a new us, you know? And we gave birth to a new us when we kind of went from age 15 to 18, 18 to 21, 21 to 25, you know? Hopefully we learned lessons and we didn't want to repeat certain old patterns of ways of living life when we were younger, you know? And I think we're meant to go through that process throughout our life, right? But some people can get to a certain stage in life. They might have done some of those ways of shedding old layers of themselves when they were young. But some people's idea was like, you know, once I get out of home and I have a job and I'm able to support myself and maybe I'm more victorious and successful in the world, because Capricorn can represent about looking victorious and successful in the world in some way, or again, attractive or charming, or social clout or whatever. And Leo can be about attractiveness or charming and looking victorious and successful. Some people thought, you know, once I become an adult, I've done those things. I had to kind of keep up with my peer group, you know. Didn't want to seem like I wasn't growing or being bold and brave like other people. But then they could have thought, you know, once you become an adult and you're out there in the work world, you kind of blend in with all the work world people. Like, you're not a teenager, you're not a young adult anymore. Now you're kind of an adult, right? And then people could have thought, boy, once I get to become an adult, I'm not doing any of that anymore. You know, my goal is maybe just to get out on my own. But they have this way of viewing life that could be kind of toxic, kind of selfish, kind of egotistical, maybe bossy or controlling or kind of immature. You know, there's some people in the world, like the devil, would think they should be indulged because they're kind of full of themselves, right? And there's some people in the world, because they have a certain status or image or look a certain way or whatever, that could be the foundation they operate from. And like I was saying, in Virgo energy, some people in the Virgo energy that they harness, my long-term goal is to have money and status and image and power and influence. Other people in their Virgo energy, we all want Capricorn and Taurus, and Virgo in high vibe talks about, I want these things in the world just like everybody else does. I would like stability and security and those things, but I'm not like consumed with it. It's not how I define my worth and value, but some people, that is how they define their worth and value. You know, it is what they wear and what they drive and how much money they have and what kind of people they have as a friend or that they date or whatever. You know, and it can be more superficial and shallow, right? But for some people, and that's what shadowy Scorpio is. Shadowy Scorpio in high vibe is exploring the mysteries of life emotionally and seeing there's more to life than just these things of the world and ourself and ego. We're emotionally complex human beings. And, you know, the highest vibrational energy of all is love. But people have free will, and it's like, I reject love. Like, oh my gosh, get away. I don't want to do love. I'm kind of more about this more worldly foundation, and that's what, or me, that's what I find more inspiring. And what I view as being looking victorious in life is having these certain things of the world, and I just don't value being motivated and inspired by truth and love. You that is like looking at life from a higher perspective. And some people don't. Some people think that's fantasy land. You got to be practical. You got to be logical. There is no other game in town but what the world tells us. And the world tells us that these are the things that are important and make us valuable. And some people are bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And forget love. I'd sacrifice love to have these things. And some people have done that. It's kind of interesting here that the mice card is upside down. Let's see, the second house, which is about I have, which is Taurus energy again. Taurus energy again, which is kind of here, and now it's here and here. Again, how do we view life? Why do we, do we go take a job and go into a career field because that job's going to make a lot of money and I want to make a lot of money or I'll seem prestigious, versus going in a career field that I feel is in alignment more with my truth and what flows more naturally for me and that I enjoy. And some people don't get into jobs and career fields when they had the free will choice because maybe they didn't have hope and faith and belief that they'd have this certain status or image that they want, right? Some people's, when a card is in reverse, it can mean extremes. And the mice can be these things that kind of wear away at your foundation. And if some people are, love is the danger zone, that is the devil. I get hurt doing that. I am not willing to see the truth that I do have these things that kind of, because mice in a foundation, they could eat away at the foundation of a house, and then, the house isn't as stable and secure as people thought it was. And some people don't realize that when we act more defensive to love or being more authentic or we're lying, because the devil lies, and we kind of lie to ourselves because we don't want to see the truth. We don't want to change. We don't want to give birth to anything new. We kind of want to keep repeating this old pattern over and over. And for some people, that is it. They just really do not like to step out of their comfort zone. They really do not like change. They want to stay in their comfort zone. That to them seems happy. The only problem is most people do grow and heal and mature themselves, and they don't stay the same in how they view themselves and how they view others, how they view the world. They kind of do this work within themselves to free themselves from things that manipulate them. And they shed some of those fears and those insecurities, and they feel more confident and stable within themselves as they kind of go through life. And they are ready to shed an old layer of themselves and give birth to being more bold and brave and confident. And kind of Virgo energy talks about learning lessons. And I've learned different lessons in life. And I don't want my fear and my insecurity or my more codependent nature or whatever to keep manipulating me. I don't want those things to keep eating away at the foundation of me. And so I'm willing to look at what it is within me and my philosophy of life and how I view myself, how I view the world. Do I love and believe in myself? Do I believe that I deserve to be in more just and fair and balanced and loving relationships? If I'm someone in high vibe Scorpio that wants to be in deep, meaningful relationships, but I tend to maybe, try to be a loving, nurturing person to other people, even though I could maybe see from the time I get in a relationship with them that they kind of operate from a different foundation. They're not as motivated and inspired by love. And so then I can get myself in this mismatched relationship where they maybe are more about themselves or immature or ego is what drives and motivates them. But, I can think that they're going to change. And, my dream keeps not coming into reality. Well, if it keeps not coming into reality, I need to see the truth of why I'm drawn and attracted to certain people. And it can kind of be an ego. I know high vibe people would not tend to think that, and I didn't think that either until I started doing tarot. Why aren't we getting in a relationship with someone who seems more on the same page as us? And sometimes it's like, well, because those people aren't around. And it might be we're working with what we got around us, right? We want to be in relationships. But it can be that we kind of lack some hope and faith and belief in ourselves. And so then, even though we could see like, oh, this person's kind of really reckless or kind of has a drinking problem or, is kind of whatever. But I have hope and faith and belief in love. I'm sure everybody has hope and faith and belief in love. I'm sure they will kind of get out of those more immature ways of being and shed that layer of themselves to come out harnessing more high vibrational Capricorn energy, being a more emotionally mature, stable, grounded person, right? But the whole thing is, everybody has their philosophy of life, and to change someone's philosophy of life, of what they could think is just and fair, or what they find they like to indulge themselves in, that they think is like living the dream or makes them emotionally fulfilled or makes them feel better. The devil can just be that we kind of have some bad coping mechanisms, right? To change that within people, God's kind of been, you could look at the sun as representing high vibe energy. God's been with them all their life, and just like God's and high vibe energy and hope and inspiration has been around for all of us, and we had the free will to choose what we align with and what we don't. And when we meet people and we see that they kind of are on a different page, it'd be one thing to be friends with people, to invest time, energy, and effort to really kind of find out kind of more what their truth is, what drives and motivates them, and, what they view as victorious, because Capricorn energy can be, what do I find, I guess kind of what we view as victorious. And some people have learned lessons in life that it is about balance. I want these things of the world, but I'm not willing to sacrifice love and deep, meaningful relationships or just and fair relationships or people acting with character and integrity just to have those things. And, we got these lessons to learn, and we can put up with a lot of poor behavior. And there could have been people in life during our life that put up with poor behavior from us, right? Were we willing to get out of our ego, learn these lessons in life, to free ourselves, grow up and mature ourselves, to be a more emotionally stable, grounded, loving, just, fair person? And if we are we going to walk the talk? We can always offer other people truth and love and be encouraging and supportive to people, but unless they've done this work within themselves to be illuminated to the truth and be someone who really walks the talk and is who they say they are, shadowy energy in Leo ego energy can just be that, you either are authentically who you say you are, or you're trying to create an illusion that's who you are. And it's like trying to manipulate people and confuse people about the truth. The devil wants people to make all their life about all these things of the world. That is the way to go, and you should love me, and you should love these things of the world, and you should look to these things of the world as the truth and the answer to your problems. And high vibe energy, inspired by truth and love, is trying to get us to see the truth, that it kind of gets us tangled up in some things that we can have a hard time getting out of, because the devil, again, is about those things that kind of get a stranglehold. Just like, I want to feel better. Instead of putting in this work and effort to walk the talk, or I really want to be in a relationship, or I want a new job or something, whatever, I'm going to operate more out of pride and ego, or fear, insecurity, or codependency. I'm going to go get in a relationship or go get this other job. And basically the idea is, if we're planting kind of bad seeds, we're not going to reap a good harvest. If we're planting good seeds, but the other person isn't, we're still not going to have this abundant harvest and outcome, because both people have to be planting good seeds, operating from truth and love and emotional maturity. Because otherwise you move forward in a relationship with someone, and it takes time and getting to know people, and we have to work through a lot of things in relationships with people. You can be in a relationship that can seem like, in a lot of ways, could have been pretty compatible, but when it got to the point where someone maybe just had to be more authentically themselves, get out of maybe their self-protective or self-defensive nature and let their more hopeful, believing nature out to play in the world, they're like, I gotta go. That is entering the danger zone. I was willing to be in a relationship. In a lot of ways, it could have been a gift to both people. In a way, it could have been something that everybody really kind of wanted. It's just that when it got to shedding an old layer of themselves, or being more authentically themselves, getting out of their defensive nature, maybe being less codependent on other people in their life or the world, they weren't willing to give birth to kind of that stepping out of their comfort zone in some way, or looking at incorporating some truth into the foundation of how they make decisions in their life. And if some people really are kind of more about themselves, or really more about ego and image, again, it can be really hard to change that. And they could have thought during the course of the relationship, thought they were someone who was motivated and inspired by love, and they thought they would be willing to maybe detach from more of those ways of being. But when it really got to be where people have to really make that decision at a core foundational level, because Taurus can talk about at a core foundational what really ultimately drives and motivates us. We can work through a lot of different things to negotiate and compromise in relationships. But am I willing to get out of my defensive nature, or thinking it should be a little bit more about me, and kind of not maybe wanting to not be a little bit more about me, or where I'm kind of a little bit more indulged in the relationship. And and then there's some people who are toxic. I want to be shadowy in whatever way I'm shadowy. I have an idea. I have a brilliant idea. Light bulb moment. I don't really like hanging out with people who might be like me. They might be stubborn. They might be immature. They might be prideful. They might be more materialistic. I have an idea. Light bulb. I am going to try to present myself as someone who harnesses high vibe energy. Like, I've been illuminated to the truth. And I'm going to go present myself to someone who I think is maybe more just and fair and nurturing and supportive and loving. Because, God, that'd be great. I kind of been hanging out with some people who are more like me. And that, isn't as good as being around someone who I can try to hide that I really am more about myself, or a little more bossy, or a little more controlling, or a little more egotistical or materialistic than I let on. But if I were to get in a relationship with someone who seems more hopeful and believing and loving and nurturing, it would make it look like I've changed, that I've given birth to a new new me, that I'm not the same person I was before. Look at me. I could have come together with someone in a new relationship or gotten a new job or getting married. And it's all, again, how it kind of benefits them. If it's good for their ego or their image. Some people did do things that were toxic and controlling and unhealthy. And some of the people in their life saw the truth of it. And though those people had hoped to move forward with those people, they realized that I don't think my dream is going to come into reality here. This person has some ways of being that before I wasn't seeing the truth of, things that were hidden in the dark. And again, it can be kind of what drives and motivates us. And I thought they were someone who walks the talk and is who they say they are. And I thought they were a more emotionally mature, stable, grounded, loving person that I'd want to date or marry, or I did date and marry them. But as time went by, I kind of saw the truth that they do operate more from their egoic nature than their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Could have a lot of fears and insecurities that really eat away at them. And then they can do toxic things kind of hidden in the dark. That's kind of like shadowy Scorpio can be like being like a private detective in a relationship. Don't worry about Scorpio sun signs. Anybody can harness that energy. Because Scorpio is kind of like, I want to explore the mysteries of life. Some of them not emotionally, but I don't like things kind of being hidden from me in a way. Where emotionally, it's kind of like people want to know more than they have the right to know about people. And that's when people can use like recording devices and hidden cameras. Why? Pretty distrustful. Probably in their ego. If someone does something that, say someone were to cheat in a relationship. Yeah, is that really hurtful and whatever? But, do we hold ourselves to a certain standard in a relationship that, I can't know everything what some people are thinking. And I think that's what gets some people in trouble. It's like, but I want to know everything that you're thinking. And it's kind of like they don't have the right. We have a right to our privacy. And the thing is, we're supposed to have some hope and faith and belief in the people that we're in a relationship. And hopefully listen to our intuition. Are the people I'm in a relationship acting with character and integrity? Am I being authentic and honest and loving? Are they being authentic and honest and loving? If they're not, am I willing to speak my truth that it seems like some things are going on? Am I willing to communicate about that? And, for all those reasons, some people are just very nosy. You have no privacy around me. I somehow justify that I get to try to look in the hidden resources of your life by bugging your phone, bugging your car, bugging the house, Well, that is an unhealthy kind of person, If they wouldn't like someone doing that to them, and even if they would, everybody's got their own philosophy of life, but odds are they're not illuminating the truth. Anyway, kind of all those things. High vibe people are listening to their truth. If they have been offering love to people, and some of the people in their life seem to have a lot of fears or insecurities or bossy, controlling, manipulative, some of those people, for a long time, we don't want to see the truth because we want the relationship to work. But there comes a time where people are like, I can't do this anymore. If people were motivated and inspired to move forward with me, they would. And I've been loving and encouraging and supportive, and they're not. And eventually I got to deal with the truth. If they have their way of living life, and that's not how I want to live my life, or they have these kind of abusive or something ways of being, or just a lot of fears and insecurities or something that affect how they interact in a relationship, I wish them peace, but I need to be in a relationship with someone who's worked through those things and kind of has learned to offer love and know their worth and value and appreciate themselves and quit giving in more. You know, it's kind of like, what thoughts and emotions do we sit in every day? We have free will. Does it mean to stay in denial of certain thoughts and emotions? No, but high vibe Leo is about offering yourself truth and love and compassion and kind of tempering yourself so you can move forward in a more emotionally balanced way. And some people could have a lot of issues, but they don't think that's their job to do that within themselves. No, I look to get in relationships with people. That's their job to make me feel better. I am sure they are the answer to my problems. And then sometimes they get in relationships with people and they look to people like they are a drug or an alcohol to solve their problems. And of course, their issues never went away. And then their issues bubble up again. And then it's like, oh, you must be the wrong person, or my issues went to bubbled up. I need to go have a new beginning with someone else. Because you aren't the answer. It's like, I never was the answer. People can only offer a loving, encouraging, supportive environment. People have to be willing to do that work within themselves to deal with the truth of things that manipulate them, and they have to free themselves. But for some people, that's not their philosophy of life. And it may never be their philosophy of life. There can be people that high vibe people wish the best towards. If some of those people have moved on with other relationships, you know, they're wishing those people peace and love, but I'm going to keep moving forward in the friendships and relationships I'm in, focusing more of my attention on the people who and being in more like involved relationships. The house can talk about coming together with others in joy and celebration. Those are the people that I'm going to focus more of my energy on. Can I know people, whether they're my adult children or my siblings or my parents or coworkers or whatever in my community, that I offer people love and encouragement, but high vibe energy is also being a good example in the world. I can only do so much for people, and then they have to kind of take over playing that role within themselves, you know, with their own inner voice and their own conversation. So there could be some people that are moving forward in new relationships or new jobs. There could be other people that they wish them the best, but, you know, I hope you free yourself, and I hope things work out for you. Some people are hoping other people do, and that one day they come to be with them in a relationship, but in the meantime, they're not going to indulge people in poor behavior. They're going to focus their time, energy, and effort onto the people in their life who are acting with character and integrity. What's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Scorpio energy that they might not see coming? The Knight of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the Death card. And the reason that came out is because of the Seven of Wands. So I view the Queen of Cups as Scorpio energy, and then the Death card is Scorpio energy. You could have communicated, because the wands can be about communication. You've communicated in love. I am moving forward in this way. Being more inspired in high vibrational Leo energy, because the Seven of Wands is Leo energy. I'm standing up for myself and what I believe in, and that's kind of like high vibe Taurus. I am going to walk the talk. And if you don't want to walk the talk, then we're kind of motivated and inspired by different things. And I'm going to stand up for my own loving nature. And love is supposed to be just and fair. You're supposed to treat other people the way you want to be treated. In the past, I might have indulged people in their poor behavior. Not anymore. And I am moving forward, emotionally detaching is what the Death card could talk about, to transform my life. I'm not the same person I was before. And some people are mad. You could look at the devil as being mad. Well, you used to indulge me in my poor behavior. Well, we can all have been in relationships with people hoping one day they would kind of grow up. But there comes a day when they keep not doing it, that I'm done. And then they're like, well, you did before. It's like, yeah. And then there comes a day where, kind of like Judgment Day, what was hidden in the dark comes to light. I am not indulging them in their poor behavior anymore. And I am moving on. And when you are standing up for yourself and you are shedding an old way of being, and they don't want to shed an old way of being, they go back and repeat this pattern with someone else. And then they're looking at someone else like, oh my gosh, this person is shining the light and they want me to go over there. I don't want to go over there. Oh, look, there's someone. Maybe someone who seems very stable or grounded or nurturing or loving that would like to be in a relationship or find a new job. I'll go present myself to them like I'm this high vibe person and they should move forward with me, and I'll move forward with them until they become illuminated to the truth. So sometimes people didn't know if they were kind of more willing to grow or heal or mature themselves. Well, then it kind of illuminated the truth even to them. And then it's kind of like, oh, I guess I am more immature or prideful or stubborn or bossy or controlling or materialistically motivated than I like to think I was. But now it has been kind of illuminated, because when I had the free will choice to stand up to be more inspired by truth and love, I chose to be defensive to that, and I repeated this old pattern. Well, now even they know they're being deceptive and manipulative, or they're immature or whatever, even though they still might not want to see the truth of it. Other people have seen the truth of it. Other people are moving on with people in their life who are more inspired by truth and love, wishing other people peace and love. We need more healed people in the world. So we offer people truth and love and encouragement to keep loving and believing in themselves. Some of those people we can't and have no interest in getting back in a relationship, because some people could have learned some lessons in life, they maybe still, we might have been illuminated, there was more lessons they needed to learn. Because some people would think, oh, if I just detach from those people or that thing, well, then we can get back in a relationship, right? And it's like, no. You might have illuminated one thing to me that manipulated me, but during this whole thing, I kind of learned about a lot of things that kind of manipulate you. And you didn't, maybe, you mentioned one, I might know about 7 things that manipulate you, and I don't need to point them out. If you don't know it, it's kind of like trying to talk to a brick wall, because they just stay in denial about it. Nuh-uh, that's not true. So, you just wish people peace and love, but I've kind of moved on, and, I'm not kind of in the same place anymore. And I kind of think, we are kind of in a, the right kind of relationship for both how we kind of view life or live life, and, and then they'll go off and do again what they do. And you might have some people who just kind of want to come indulge in a relationship with you. There's always more shadowy people that want to be the next person to indulge in a relationship with you. And it's like, no, I am looking for someone who's inspired by truth and love to move forward with me in truth and love, that's willing to stand up and defend me and be truthful and authentic and walk the talk. Not someone who wants to come in and be in a relationship like in their ego to indulge. No, I've already been there and done that. I'm moving on. And the only people I'm moving on with are people who seem to be authentic and honest, and I've learned to listen to my intuition, where maybe before I didn't. And I had lessons to learn that I was given my intuition to help me navigate in this world, to see through what were things that were hidden, because again, people can wear a false mask, and we were given our intuition as a gift. And I have learned to listen to my intuition instead of letting my ego and my lust and my greed kind of dictate the decisions I make in my life, because I don't want to repeat those old patterns. So I have to stand up for myself and temper my wanting to maybe go take action towards certain people. If I've already communicated my truth and love, I'm going to keep moving forward. And if those other people aren't coming towards me and working with me and illuminating the truth and moving forward with me in that way, sometimes some of those people are hoping that you will be defensive to believing in yourself and your dreams, and that you will chase after them, which is what the Knight of Wands can talk about. Shadowy Sagittarius energy. Well, it's like, well, if you chased after me, then I know you kind of don't love and believe in yourself. You're kind of maybe a more codependent energy. Well, then maybe I would get out of whatever I'm involved in, because you might have better traits or characteristics or ways of being than people I'm in a relationship with. But it's only so long as you're in your ego or in your fear or your codependency. So you speak your truth in love, and then you move on. And some people were hoping to manipulate you, to get you in your ego, and that's why they are turning their back to you and not putting in work and effort with you and communicating with you and defending you, because they only want to be in the relationship with you if you're a more shadowy ego energy. Then they'll indulge in a relationship with you because you're in more kind of shadowy energy also. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I've already been there, done that. I've given birth to a new me. I'm moving forward with or without you. And I trust and believe that if life's about learning lessons, and I've learned this lesson, and if I keep walking the talk, I am going to detach from this old pattern. And that means a new pattern opens up for me because I have more lessons to learn. And I will meet new people to help me learn and grow and heal and learn more lessons in life. And high vibe Scorpio is like, I am willing to do the highs and lows in life because everybody has these different lessons to learn along with me. Not everything I go pursue is going to work out the way I want. But when I see that something I did go pursue is toxic and unhealthy, yeah, I'm leaving. And I believe that the next lesson will appear. And I'll learn more lessons. But I'm not going to keep staying in something that I've already seen the truth is not healthy or balanced or just or fair or loving, or is just more emotionally shallow and superficial. That's not my truth. I want a more deep, meaningful, authentic, loving relationship. And I will go enjoy my life and living my life and friends and family if I'm not in a romantic relationship. And I want to be available to get in relationships with when I meet someone who is more in that energy, to be able to have a new beginning with them. There could be some people who got themselves in a relationship. They'd kind of like to get out of it because they could have gotten in it, kind of indulging themselves maybe in a relationship or just because they had their lessons to learn. But in order to get out of it, they'd have to illuminate the truth. Or they're in an unhealthy relationship, but they keep hoping someone will change. It's like, well, you do you. Everybody's Sagittarius is about higher learning and education. I might have learned some lessons and I might have done that. Maybe you're still learning that lesson and I'm moving on and we're just kind of not on the same page at the same time. What's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio energy? The Star and the Queen of Wands. Why? Because of the Knight of Cups. Well, if we're kind of more an immature energy, the Knight of Cups can be that we're kind of caught up in illusion emotionally. We're still kind of either more full of ourselves or caught up in the world or still have illusions about other people changing. Or we're kind of full of ourselves and we think people should want to be in a relationship with us. And there's some people who do feel that way about themselves and they're kind of in their ego. And I'm sure there's going to be people who want to be in a relationship with me. And so in one way that can kind of sound like the high vibe people that I was talking about. It's just the high vibe people aren't in denial of the truth. They know that it takes being truthful and honest and just and fair and authentic and loving acting with character and integrity. The other people still have these illusions about what it means to be in a relationship and kind of operating a little bit more from their ego and being a little full of themselves, you know? The high vibe people are really willing to walk the talk. The other people try to create the illusion they're willing to walk the talk, but it's more driven by these illusions they have about relationships, that they can be kind of toxic or bossy or manipulative or egotistical or self-centered, and that people should still want to stay in a relationship with them. And because they keep kind of investing in that illusion, at any time in their life, they're going to have more high vibrational people in their life that would like to be in a relationship with them, that have been trying to offer them love and encouragement, but, you know, they're not willing to be more authentic. You know, I view the Queen of Wands as Leo energy. They harness their Leo energy in a more shadowy way, which can just be defensiveness or fear or egotism or worldliness. And eventually other people in their life see the truth, and it's like, you know, I wish you peace, but I'm moving on. You know, I can't, you know, how long can I stay in denial that someone seems to be more caught up in being in a relationship more for their ego or image, or them being indulged, or them being manipulative or bossy? You know, at what time am I going to work through my own fears or insecurities of becoming independent of them to quit staying in an unhealthy relationship with maybe someone who tries to wear on my self-esteem to get me in more fearful, codependent, anger, lust, greed, competitive energy, and keep me in my ego, versus being in relationships with people who would never think of doing that because they don't want me to be in that energy. You know, somebody who loves you doesn't want you to be in competitive energy or in your ego or things like that. But some people, that's a tactic they use. Like, well, if you were to leave, I'll just go get in a relationship with someone else. You know what I look like, or how much money I got, or whatever. You know, and that can keep people in it because it's kind of in their ego, like feeling like if I leave, I just think they'll go get in another relationship, and I think there'll be other people who want to get in a relationship with them. So just kind of out of my ego, and I want, you know, and that fear, like, what if I leave and then they go get in a relationship with someone else and they change? If you look at your own life and things that you needed to change within yourself, like negative self-talk, or exercising more if that was a thing, or putting in, you know, all those things, it can take years for those things to become like a new habit in your life where you're no longer aligned with that old habit. And if you know some people who are more bossy or controlling or prideful or egotistical or manipulative or self-centered or very driven by the world, odds are that it's very hard to change someone's way of operating in the world. And there's a reason why they do it. It's something that they've incorporated and got kind of indoctrinated about growing up or something somewhere along the way. And it's very hard to change earth sign energy. You know, we have to be willing to see the truth. And some people, you know, it might look good. It might look like people have moved on, like they've changed or grown or matured. Odds are it's a painful process to give birth to a new you. When we were younger and just letting go of being 15 to be 18, and it was scary to go get a new job and all those things. But this is really major transformation. And if you've done it within yourself and you've worked through a lot of things that manipulated you, you know how hard it is. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they'd rather go get like the quick fix to feel better than to put in this work and effort it takes to deal with some core foundational truths about yourself and to learn to love yourself. So I think at any given moment, more worldly, shadowy people can have people leave their life. And then the people who might be willing to keep moving forward with them are kind of people who are on the same page as them. You know, it's just more caught up in the things of the world and ego and image. And so long as you're willing to indulge me in my poor behavior and I'm willing to kind of indulge you in your shadowy ways of being, because what's most important is to create this illusion of how wonderful and victorious our life is. You know, it can be more about creating this illusion. Other people are actually inspired to transform their life, to quit repeating an old pattern and give birth to something new, going into unknown territory, letting love and intuition guide them. And the more worldly, shadowy people, because they have fear of either stepping out of their comfort zone or dealing with the truth or illuminating the truth, they're going to keep repeating this old pattern and caught up in this illusion. And the devil's going to kind of have a stranglehold on them until they're willing to deal with the truth and having these things manipulate them. And other people are going to free themselves and move forward in life differently. So there you go, Scorpio. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.